All right. Hey, folks. So it's Faz here from Faz Lifts. Thanks for joining me. Today, I'm going to start off with a new series. It's called the Health Series. Now, it became quite evident to me that this is quite a gap in knowledge with a lot of people. Just talking to guys at the gym, looking around on social media, there's quite a large variance in what people know about effective supplementation for health. So the first in this series is going to focus on supplementing your diet for the purposes of improved health outcomes. But before we get into that, thanks for making it onto my channel. If you have any questions or comments about this video or anything else, pop them down below. And if you'd like to work with me on your own strength and physique goals, then there's a link in the description. Get in touch. Now, the way this conversation came about is I was speaking to a couple of guys at the gym, and they were saying to me, "Hey Faz, what do you think about these vitamins and minerals? Like, should we be taking them or not?" And it was just like a very open, blank question. So, I said to them, what are you eating now? Yeah, and they kind of rattled off a bit of a meal plan they had, which mostly centered around, chicken, rice, vegetables, that kind of stuff, the usual bodybuilder thing, right? And so they wanted to know, is it worth taking, like, should I take vitamin D? Should I take vitamin K? Should I take fish oils? All that kind of stuff. And what became evident from talking to these guys is they had absolutely no clue what they were eating or what was in their diet. They just wanted to shotgun a bunch of supplements and think that would basically fix them or at least bandage over any problems for later in life. So it got me thinking, and there's probably two groups of people two kind of scenarios here. One is your scenario like those guys I speak to, and they really don't have a great deal of idea about what effective nutrition is, apart from the right amount of protein, the right amount of calories, right? The usual stuff we've been drilled into for the last 15, 20 years. But what they don't really think about is health outcomes. So they really have no clue, but they've been told, somebody told them, take magnesium, it'll help you go sleep. Take vitamin D, it'll stop you from getting sick. Stuff like that. But what they don't seem to realize is that this is the supplementation that they need is dependent on their levels. So that's kind of the first kind of group. I think the second group is probably not as problematic, but also has its own issues, is they take supplements they believe in. So they might take magnesium, vitamin D, whatever, right? But they take them because they believe in them. So they have been taken for years, blah, 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 and they believe in them. The problem with that is your belief can cause issues because your belief in one supplement can basically put a wiper on your face so you're not looking at other supplements. Also, you don't know whether you're taking a right amount. You don't know whether you're taking too little, whether you're taking too much. So they're just shotgunning supplements. It's not really helpful either. Like, it's probably better than the first group who are just completely oblivious to it, but it's probably not optimal and optimal and ideal, which is kind of what I'm talking about here. So what both groups lack is an objective measure for whether they need to take supplements or not and how much they need. So if you're sat there taking a bunch of magnesium and you don't need it, then, well, it's a waste, or it could be problematic. If you're sat there taking a bunch of, here's a common one, if you're sat there sort of taking way too much vitamin D, then that can actually lead to some pretty bad health outcomes. If you're taking way too much calcium, that can lead to some bad health outcomes. So there are a bunch of things which you've got to look at if you're trying to do things for the best possible route. And the good thing is, it's actually pretty easy to do that. So for the purpose of this video, I want to show you how to do it, but also talk you through some of the most important vitamins and minerals, which I think people should be considering in their quest for optimal health outcomes. So first one we're going to look at is sodium. Now, just a quick primer on sodium. And bear in mind, I'm not saying, I'd like you to watch to the end of this video where I go through how to fix this and how to look at everything. So I'm going to go through 4 substances here. Now, they're not all things that need to be supplemented straight away, but in general, sodium, it tends to be in abundance. Now, in the past, we would have had to actively seek it out. Nowadays, they add it to processed foods a lot, so you tend to get more than you need. Salting to taste works well. Sodium is absorbed quite well in the body, and any excess tends to hang around on your mouth. It's kind of like if you've had a night where you've had a ton of salty food, you wake up in the morning and there's a slight taste of salt on your mouth. It's because there's way too much salt in your system. So if you, however, switch to like a minimally processed, like diet with whole foods, or maybe a keto diet, then you might need additional supplementation because in your diet is going to be more like it was maybe 100 years ago. The issue with sodium is undersalting tends to amplify appetite. We know that A decent target for optimum sodium intake is probably anywhere between 2.7 to about 4 grams. 2.7 being the USDA guidelines, 4 grams being, in my experience, a better stretch target for appetite control. So that's the first thing, sodium. Next one is potassium. Now, potassium is really where people start to really get under dosed. It's nowhere near as abundant as sodium anymore. Like maybe 100 years ago, 200 years ago, this situation was completely the opposite. We didn't have a great deal of processed foods, and also there was more potassium in the foods that have a lot of potassium now, like fruits, vegetables, things like that. So we have to actively seek out potassium. It's generally found in whole and unprocessed foods. The potassium content of those whole and unprocessed foods has trended downwards since a change of agricultural practices in the 1940s. It's stripped the land of minerals like potassium, sodium, and magnesium. So nowadays, it's not really just enough to say, I'm eating a great diet. Like, okay, more than likely you need to be supplementing, which is what this video is about. So carry on watching. Chronic imbalance of potassium and sodium can lead to like long-term issues in blood pressure. Okay, so you can imagine, you go see your doctor. Maybe this applies to some of you guys watching. You go see your doctor, and your doctor say, "Hey, we need to put you on blood pressure medication." And you go, "Well, doc, I eat a healthy diet. I train." Like, "Yep, well, there you go. That's all it is." Doctor doesn't know because doctor's got no clue about this. Neither of you. You try and eat healthy. You do your training, but blood pressure's still rising up. Maybe like your body fat's a little high. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But either way, you've got this blood pressure problem. What would be a horrendous thing is, what if that was actually just a result of a sodium and potassium imbalance, which you've just had chronically, because your diet's been pretty much the same as it has your whole life, and also due to agricultural practices, you're just getting a lot less potassium than you would be if you had a quote unquote healthy diet like 100 years ago. So a lack of potassium can cause this sort of blood pressure problem, particularly because if it's imbalanced with sodium, especially if you're supplementing with sodium. Like a lot of people are told in our circles or fitness circles to supplement with sodium, but it's not always that helpful, because I find that a lot of bodybuilding coaches talk about sodium, but they don't talk about that in the next to potassium, which I find really crazy, because it's all about sodium potassium balance. It's not about one or the other. So I know bodybuilding coaches out there who talk about sodium constantly, but they never mention potassium. And you ask them about potassium, they go, I don't really bother. It's like, that's just crazy. So anyway, a lack of potassium, not only can it cause issues like dehydration, blood pressure problems, but also it's correlated with, again, increased hunger. So targeting something like 5 or 6 grams for men and up to about 5 grams for females tends to lead to good benefits in that regard with appetite control and satiation. Next one is magnesium. This is probably one which you guys have heard about. This is another nutrient which also correlates well with satiety. It relaxes and calms the body. Chronic depletion of magnesium is also responsible for higher blood pressure, higher heart rates, can lead to anxiety, nervousness, trouble sleeping, and also contribute to depression in some cases. I find roughly about 800 milligrams to a gram is a good stretch target for men, up to about 600 milligrams for women for both appetite and health. And again, that's going to be a little bit higher than USDA guidelines, but in my experience, that tends to be a good balance. Like sodium and potassium, the amounts in food have trended downwards since the 40s. So supplementation to get those levels is almost mandatory. And the final one we're going to look at today is calcium. And that's another nutrient which also correlates with satiety. This works with magnesium for muscle contraction and relaxation. Contributes to healthy bones, teeth, blood clotting factors, and nerve transmissions. Also helps to regulate blood pressure. I find about a good decent stretch target is about 1.6 grams for men, about 1.3 for women for maximum satiety benefits. For this, though, I don't really talk about this in terms of supplementation, because it's wise not to get this from supplements. It's wise to try and get this from diet alone, just because while calcium at a decent level has been associated with good health outcomes, supplementation of calcium has been associated with poor health outcomes and cardiovascular risks. So avoid supplementation, however, ensure you're getting enough from your diet. Now we get on to the main portion of the video, which is actually how to fix your nutrient intake by diet. I'm just going to blow this up a little bit here just so you guys can see what's going on. This is my actual diet entry for today. So this is what I'll be eating. And I want to just talk you through some of these numbers. And on the right-hand side, explain to you what that means. Now, I'm going to go through what this is. Okay, this is my diet for today. Now, I'm going to read out the diet. Some of you might argue with it. Some of you might say it's like, it needs improvement here. It's not a very good diet, whatever. Like, okay, look, whatever. It's a pretty decent diet, is what I'm trying to emphasize. It's a diet which has about 230 grams of protein, about 100 grams of carbs, about 100 grams of fat. So it's in the ratio that I like, plenty of protein, about 2,400 calories altogether, and it's got good options. Altogether, I'm looking at about over a kilo of fruits and vegetables, plenty of meat, plenty of eggs, plenty of fish. Okay, I've got a wide variety of foods, and they're all whole foods. So yeah, I'm sure some of you can maybe argue with it and go, you can improve it here, you can improve it there. Or some of you might just try and troll me and go, that's a terrible diet. But I'm not trying to provide a perfect diet for you guys. What I'm trying to say is this is my actual diet for today. So I'll talk you through. Breakfast, which I have at about noon, so it's not really a breakfast, it's like a lunch, is I'll start with about 3 eggs, 4 bacon. Start that again. 4 bacon, steak, not eggs, egg white powder that I make into these little chuffle things, and some mixed vegetables, a combination of peas and carrots, about 300 grams of mixed vegetables. So 300 grams of mixed vegetables with 4 slices of bacon on this egg white chuffle, plus a ribeye steak on the side. Then for dinner, which will be later in the day, I'll have 2 fried eggs with another ribeye steak, about 200 grams of prawns, and again, another 300 grams of mixed vegetables. So far, we've got a lot of vegetables, we've got a lot of meat, we've got a lot of fish. Everything is just whole foods, minimally processed. And then at the end, usually maybe an hour or two before bed, I will have some whey protein mixed in Greek style, like fat-free yogurt. And with that, on the side, I'll have about 400 grams of fruit, which is a combination of usually mango, bananas, and strawberries. So all in all, we're looking at a pretty decent diet. We've got about a kilo of fruits and veg. We've got a lot of meat, a lot of protein. All in all, a decent diet. Now, the point I'm trying to make with all this is not to impress you with my diet. The point I'm trying to make is, if you look on the right-hand side, I'm still massively deficient in potassium and magnesium. That's not good, right? So I'm very deficient in potassium and magnesium. Calcium and sodium are okay, like they're pretty decent. But even with what is a diet composed of a kilo of fruits and veg, I'm still only at halfway up my total for potassium. I'm still at a third of my total for magnesium. So I'm still massively down. Now, as we've seen, chronic depletion in those areas can cause some big problems, and especially doubly so if you're down in potassium and you're high in sodium, and that's even worse. And you think to yourself, well, there's probably people out there with diets far worse than this, like diets with far less fruits and vegetables, diets with far less meats, diets with far less, a lot of other things. So diets with a lot more processed foods, a lot more highly processed foods, a lot of like junk, all that kind of stuff. Like that's all going to contribute to poorer health outcomes in a model like this. So sure, at the moment, this is not looking that great. Actually, hold on. I thought I had a pretty good diet here. I got a load of fruits and veg. I got meat at every diet. I'm having a nice 3 squares. Should be doing pretty well. Actually, I'm not doing particularly well, and particularly in 2 areas like potassium and magnesium. This is not very good. Now, what I tend to do is I tend to supplement. So that takes my totals from up on the top there to down at the bottom for a day. So I supplement quite heavily with potassium and also with magnesium. Occasionally I supplement a little bit with sodium as well, depending on how much I've been sweating at the gym. But in general, my actual daily totals for the 4 compounds that I'm talking about today are 110 for potassium, which is slightly over 5 grams, about 5.5 grams. 81 for calcium. I don't supplement with that. I just get it from diet. Sodium, I don't add any extra. I just get it from diet, not usually. Magnesium, I supplement with it quite heavily because, again, it's in general, even if you're eating up to like a kilo of fruits and vegetables, you're still going to be massively deficient in it. So potassium and magnesium are the big ones that I supplement with. So they're almost essential, I would say, because on a diet which on the surface looks pretty good, And again, the point is not to sort of talk to you guys about how amazing my diet is. The point is just because whenever you do that, you're always open to, criticism in the comments. I'm just trying to say, you can plug your own diet into Cronometer and have a look at what you think is a diet which is healthy and well-rounded, and match that to what the guidelines say you should be getting per day. That's the point of the video. The point is not to say this diet is fantastic or this day is 1 day of eating, that's all it is. The point is more to show you guys that for what on the surface appears to be a pretty decent diet, actually, if you plug the numbers in, it's massively deficient in a lot of vitamins and minerals. So if we just have a look at the next thing here. So next thing, I just want to get you guys to have a look at overall vitamins and minerals. I've been concentrating on the electrolytes because that's a major focus, but overall vitamin and mineral load is very, very good. You can see here, beta vitamins all taken care of, choline, folate, all good. Vitamin A, C, and K, all good. The ones that I'm deficient in diet is vitamin D and vitamin E, which is why I supplement those two. And if we go ahead and look at minerals, everything looks pretty much spot on there with the added supplementation. So I'm in a good spot. The point with all this is, if you are interested in health, and you're not doing these things, there's a very easy way to find out what you need to supplement and how much of it you need to supplement. Just plug your numbers in, just plug your numbers in. That's all you need to do. Plug your numbers in. The computer does the rest. All you need to do is plug in your food. That's it. Plug in your food. The computer does everything else. All you need to do is just plug in, hey, this is my diet, just like you would in MyFitnessPal. If you've had any experience with doing that, it's not dissimilar. Cronometer is much more accurate. The big thing about Cronometer is, whereas MyFitnessPal does give you some of these numbers, it's not anywhere near as accurate, because MyFitnessPal, the data in that is crowdsourced, right? It's crowdsourced. So any random Jack and Jill will put the numbers in, but it might not correlate with accuracy. Whereas all of these entries are vetted by the actual owners of the app. So that's why you're going to get the accurate numbers in. You know exactly what you're getting. So for the same effort, Cronometer is a lot better than MyFitnessPal. It gives you a lot more data and much more accuracy. And it's dead easy to use. The desktop interface for Cronometer is a lot better in my opinion. But the overriding point with this is, if you don't know what you're getting, this is a good way to do it. If you don't know what supplement to take, this is a good way to find out. Okay. If you're already supplementing, you might not be either supplementing enough, or you might be over supplementing, or you might be supplementing incomplete ratio of things. It's worth having a look at this so you know full well where your imbalances are. You can preempt a lot of long-term health problems by doing this and being aware of what you're taking in. So intelligent supplementation is everything. Now, I think nowadays, in this day and age, 2022, we're living in, avoiding supplementation to get everything like naturally, it's just not viable. Like, you can't get by like that. It sounds great, like, hey, I'm going to get all my vitamins and minerals from whole foods. Like, okay, good luck with that. But unless you've got very, very low targets for certain vitamins and minerals, it's just not going to be possible. Or you've got like a really, really high caloric intake, fine, But for the majority of people, that's not going to be doable. I think majority of people are pretty similar to me, roughly the same caloric load, same protein, whatever. Those calories on that day were a little bit low, but you get the point. It's more about, I'm asking you guys to go ahead and take some responsibility and look at yourselves and go, okay, what am I taking on a daily basis? Okay, and what can I do with that? Now, not even being aware of your supplementary needs tend to lead to suboptimal outcomes like poor health, blood pressure, hunger, etc. I mean, I said to you earlier in the video, imagine going through your entire life and your doctor's got you on blood pressure medications, he's got you on, I don't know, whatever else, beta blockers or whatever else, right? But the actual problem is you just didn't take 10 minutes to go onto Cronometer and have a look at what you're eating. Fix all those problems. I'm not saying that's the fix to everything. I'm not some kind of like cuckoo quack, but it's a fix to a hell of a lot of things. I mean, if you've got a chronic high sodium, low potassium, for whatever reason, that's going to lead to poor health outcomes, which eventually are going to get you to a tipping point where you can't come back from, and you may have to be on medication, but you may well at least be able to reduce the need for medication doing these things. On that note, while I'm just talking about that, I will say, if you are looking to supplement with some of these things, it's probably worth, checking with your doctor, because particularly potassium can really interfere with some blood pressure medication. So don't do that on the basis of this video. Talk it through with your doctor. But even for you guys, if you're on blood pressure medication or you're not, it's worth plugging in your numbers and going, okay, well, hey, I'm on, I don't know, this tablet of this blood pressure medication. And actually, holy crap, my potassium level is like 1 gram and my sodium is 6 grams. Whoa. What if I reverse that ratio? Like, slowly and with doctor's approval? What if I did that? Holy crap. Maybe that would readdress my blood pressure problems. And it does. It does for a lot of people. It does for a lot of people. The other thing to say at this point is, a lot of you will be looking at this going, Faz, what the hell? I'm a young guy, I'm in my 20s. None of this applies to me. I'm fine. I'm doing everything right anyway. What's your problem? Talk to me about how to build my biceps. Calm down, young Einstein. Now, you're getting away with a lot because you're young. So did I. Okay. Don't think that's happening because of your diet and your healthy lifestyle. So if you're like in your 20s right now and go, hey, Faz, actually, my diet is amazing, I have no health problems, that's because you're 20 years old. It's not because you're doing anything right. As you see from this diet, you can plug in a pretty good diet. You can still be horrendously deficient in a lot of things. So it's worth educating yourself on what to have. And maybe it's not a problem now. Fair enough. Cool. You're young. Have fun. Whatever. But if you are serious about your health, I think intelligent supplementation is vital. It's important to know where you're at so you know what to get. Final point is here, shotgunning supplementation is a step up. So if you're saying to me, okay, Faz, I've taken, magnesium for the last, I don't know how many years, good for you. But it's also problematic because it can give you a false sense of security. Because as we saw from the Cronometer screenshots, it's a whole range of vitamins and minerals, and you could be deficient in something. So it gives you a false sense of security. Somebody could be watching this video and going, well, Faz, I supplement with vitamin D. Been supplementing that for 15 years. All right, steady on. What about the rest of it? Do you know? And don't tell me, look, you're fine. Okay, everyone's fine until they're not. Everyone's fine until they're not. Okay, that guy who's out there smoking 20 a day, who goes, something happens to him in his 60s, 70s, he's fine until he's not. That person out there who's obese, yeah, I'm fine. Health every size, all good. Goes and has a heart attack at 40, not good. Yeah. Endless amounts of people are okay until they're not. Until the doctor wakes them up one day and goes, hey, you've just had a stroke. Hey, you've just had whatever. It's not cool. Yeah. So everyone's okay till they're not. I'm not trying to scaremonger people here, but bottom line is, I take an interest in this stuff. I'm 40 now. I want to make sure my health is good. Simple stuff like this, it works very well. Final point, which I didn't put on here, is to do with if it fits your macros, and just like a bit of a nod in that direction. One of the reasons why I'm not particularly enamored with that approach is it doesn't allow you to do stuff like this. The way that I approach, cheat meals, and I don't call them cheat meals, but the way I approach just going off plan with my clients is, if you're going to go off plan, go off plan. We shouldn't have to, try and fit everything into our macros, because if we do that, then that makes every single day just this like undernourished extravaganza of like pizza and chocolate. It's not about that anymore. Come on, guys, it's 2022. Let's grow up. Let's actually have some intelligent discourse about how we know what's in our diets, vitamins and minerals, and not just like protein and protein and pancakes days or protein and Pop-Tarts days, whatever they were. Leave those back in 2005. We're talking about intelligent nutrition talk, how to make sure you're getting enough vitamins, minerals into your diet on a daily basis. But yeah, we're still humans. So if it's a Saturday night and you and your old lady want to go down to the local pizza joint, go. Fine. But just make sure the bulk of your week looks pretty good, and ensure that it looks good by approaching your diet and your supplementation in an intelligent way. Right, folks. So that was the first part of the series on health, and it's kind of what I do with my clients, with myself, and in terms of getting optimal amounts of vitamins and minerals, and ensuring we know what supplements to take. We're not just shotgunning them willy-nilly. One final point I want to make is, if you guys haven't got it this far, is for the enhanced guys. Enhanced guys, if you're not doing this, then you're really like messing up. Like, being enhanced, this stuff is way more important than for natural guys. So if you're sat there thinking, yeah, I've been on for a while and I've not even touched this stuff, then you need to pull your finger out and get a handle on what's going on there. So it becomes doubly important for you guys. All right, guys, I'm going to start to wrap things up. So if you enjoyed that, go ahead and like, subscribe, leave a comment for the algorithm. I will also encourage, shares, subscribe, tell other people about this. Go ahead and advertising this kind of stuff on like Instagram tends to work pretty well too. It gets people onto a different audience. So any of that kind of stuff really helps. But I'll be back for part 2, and that's going to be to do with another way you can monitor your health as to ensure good outcomes. So all right, hopefully that was useful. Talk to you guys soon.